Did you know there was a world war before the First World War? Countries sent thousands of troops and spent what today would be considered millions and millions of dollars, all for a teeny tiny region that was and is still considered holy. In different waves throughout several centuries, European countries traveled all the way to the Middle East to conquer what was known as the Kingdom of Jerusalem. These military expeditions were known as the Crusades. Today, the word is used to refer to fanaticism and religious violence against the East. But here's the question historians keep raising. Does that framing hold up when you actually look at the sequence of events? Who did what? When, where, and why, in the order it actually happened? Because the Crusades did not begin out of the blue, and understanding what came before them changes almost everything about how you read what came after. By the year 600 AD, the Christian world stretched from Spain to Persia. Jerusalem had been under Byzantine Christian Roman administration for nearly 3 centuries. It held the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the site Christians identify as Christ's burial and resurrection. For pilgrims, it was the center of the known world. Then, beginning in the 630s, Islamic armies under the early Caliphate swept out of the Arabian Peninsula in one of the fastest territorial expansions in recorded history. Within a century, they had taken Syria, Egypt, Persia, North Africa, and Spain. Jerusalem fell to Caliph Umar in 637. For the next 4 centuries, Christian pilgrimage continued under varying degrees of tolerance depending on who held power. The Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim famously ordered the destruction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in 1009. His successor eventually allowed reconstruction, but the damage to Christian confidence and access to the holy sites was lasting. Then came the Seljuk Turks. In 1071, at the Battle of Manzikert in eastern Anatolia, the Seljuks dealt the Byzantine Empire its worst military defeat in centuries. They captured the Byzantine Emperor Romanos IV in battle. Within years, they had occupied most of Asia Minor, the heartland of what remained of the Eastern Roman Empire. 2 years later, they took Jerusalem, and by most contemporary accounts, conditions for Christian pilgrims deteriorated sharply under the Seljuk. If you want to keep getting history explained the unbiased way, subscribe now. Every week, we're dropping several 10-minute briefs. After Emperor Alexios I requested military assistance against the Seljuks, Pope Urban II declared a military expedition to the east on November 27, 1095 at the Council of Clermont in what is now central France. According to the chronicle of Fulcher of Chartres, who was present at Clermont, Urban described the violence suffered by Eastern Christians and called on the knights of Western Europe to turn their weapons toward a different purpose. The crowd's reported response was Deus vult, meaning God wills it. What followed was a series of 8 to 9 distinct military campaigns stretching across 2 centuries, from 1096 to 1291. Historians disagree on exact numbering, but the structure is clear. Waves of Western European forces traveling to the Levant, with radically varying outcomes. The First Crusade, launched in 1096, is the one that succeeded militarily. After a brutal march across Anatolia, Crusader forces besieged Jerusalem in June 1099 and took the city. The chronicler, Raymond of Aguilars, recorded the aftermath with language that leaves nothing to the imagination. The violence was severe and indiscriminate. Muslim and Jewish inhabitants of the city were killed in significant numbers. This is not disputed by serious historians. What is less often taught is that the same Crusader forces had already massacred Jewish communities in the Rhineland on their way east. An atrocity condemned at the time by local bishops who tried, in some cases physically, to shield Jewish residents. The Crusade, even at its outset, was not a unified or controlled movement. The Crusaders established 4 states in the Levant: the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the County of Tripoli, the Principality of Antioch, and the County of Edessa. These were functioning political entities. They had courts, commerce, and complex relationships with neighboring Muslim powers. However, they suffered a tragic fall. Edessa fell first, in 1144, to the Zengid ruler Imad ad-Din Zengi. This triggered the Second Crusade, which failed. However, the defining turning point came in 1187. Saladin decisively defeated the Crusader army at the Battle of Hattin, then retook Jerusalem. According to the Muslim chronicler Ibn al-Athir, Saladin was deliberate in contrasting his conduct with 1099. The city's Christian population was ransomed or released, not massacred. This was in part a calculated political statement. The Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192, brought Richard I of England, Richard the Lionheart, into direct confrontation with Saladin. Neither won decisively, but the result was a treaty. Christians would not hold Jerusalem, but would have access to it for pilgrimage. Then came the event that historians argue permanently fractured the crusading project from within. The Fourth Crusade in 1204 never reached the Holy Land. Diverted by Venetian financial interest and internal politics, it sacked the Christian city of Constantinople, the seat of the Byzantine Empire that the Crusades had been partly launched to defend. Pope Innocent III condemned it. The Eastern and Western churches, already in schism since 1054, moved further apart, and the Byzantine Empire never fully recovered. Historians have argued this question for decades. Thomas Madden of St. Louis University, one of the leading Crusade scholars in the United States, argues that the Crusades were primarily a defensive response to centuries of Islamic military expansion. Jonathan Riley Smith, the British historian who spent 4 decades on the subject, pushed back on the idea that Crusaders were primarily motivated by land or plunder. His research into wills and financial records showed that most knights who went on crusade spent far more than they could ever hope to recover. Many went into debt. Crusading, he argued, was genuinely understood by most participants as an act of penance and devotion, however brutal its execution. Carol Hillenbrand, examining Arabic sources, presents the Muslim world's experience of the Crusades as initially fragmented and locally managed, not immediately perceived as a civilizational confrontation. That framing came later, she argues, and was partly constructed in the 19th and 20th centuries as part of Arab nationalist and anti-colonial political projects. None of this rehabilitates the violence, though. The massacres at Jerusalem in 1099, the Rhineland pogroms, the sack of Constantinople, and numerous lesser atrocities are part of the record. But the question historians raise is whether the Crusades can be understood as a one-directional aggression or whether they represent something more complicated. A collision of two expanding, confident civilizations over contested sacred geography, with neither side holding a monopoly of either violence or restraint. The Crusades ended militarily with the fall of Acre in 1291. The last Crusader stronghold in the Levant was gone. The project as a military enterprise had failed in its central objective. But the legacy persisted in unexpected directions. The contact between Western Europe and the Islamic world during the crusading period facilitated the transfer of knowledge in mathematics, medicine, philosophy, and science that contributed to what became the European Renaissance. In the modern era, the Crusades became a political instrument. Colonial-era European powers invoked them. So did the 20th century Arab nationalist leaders, framing Western intervention in the Middle East as a continuation of the same project. After September 11, 2001, President George Bush used the word crusade in a press conference, then quickly walked it back under diplomatic pressure. The word carries weight precisely because the history is unresolved. Not militarily, that ended in 1291, but in terms of how competing civilizations choose to remember shared violence. That argument is still active. The Crusades are one of those subjects where almost everyone has an opinion and very few have read the primary sources. So we prepared this analysis to give you a proper rundown so you can make your own opinion. But did you find this story interesting? What parts of the Crusades did you already know? What parts didn't you know? Let us know in the comment section. And while you're at it, subscribe to our channel. Like this video and turn on the notification bell so you know as soon as we drop a new video. And if you want early access to our upcoming releases, click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. And we'll see you in the next 10-minute brief.